Woo! We're back with another live. What's going on, fam? I got a special guest, a good friend of mine, someone that I highly respect, just as a thought leader, someone that's known me for many, many, many years, Dan Schwabel, that's going to be joining us here. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for taking a midday break to jump on the live. What's going on? Yeah, Dan's here. Sweet. What's up, Dan? So let's bring Dan on. Guys, do me a favor and please make sure to comment any questions that you have for Dan. He is an best-selling author. He is an unbelievable thought leader. His latest book is something I want to talk about because I think it's like interesting. Hit the concept. The title is called Back to Human. So I can't wait to just jam with him on this. I'm going to bring him on now, guys. So prepare your questions. How's everybody's day? Happy Monday. Yeah.
What's up, my friend?
What's up?
I'm very jealous that you've got this cool setup behind you.
Thank you. Oh man, thanks, bro. I'm blessed. I'm an East Coast kid, so I've always been on the East Coast, and now I'm on the West Coast. And bro, I can miss my family dearly, but the weather, man, is just like freaking awesome, bro.
Yeah,
So
we
nice.
kind of traded because I'm with my family in Boston right now because I
Are you?
escaped New York 7 weeks ago,
Oh,
but I
okay.
don't have that view.
But
But
you
the
do
weather's
have your
getting better.
family.
But I have
Which
my
is cool.
family, so it's a
I
trade.
would take family over the views any day. I miss them so much, bro. It was just my nephew's birthday this weekend. He just turned 12. And it was the first year, man. I couldn't even be with my nephews and my fam. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough, bro. But,
Yeah, and all this technology, it's not a replacement for human connection. It never will be. And I think everyone is realizing this, that the technology is driving us to want more of the human connection. And the longer we go about being in isolation, the harder it is going to be for us because it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs: safety, security,
right.
food, and shelter, and then love and friendships and actually being with people. And then you can be self-actualized and you can play at your best and be fulfilled.
Mm.
But you know
So,
what's really interesting, Gerard, before
yeah.
we get started, is I've been doing a ton of work, as you know, on the workplace, and
Yep.
remote work is obviously a big topic, which we can talk about. But the last 2 weeks, I am a single guy crashing with his parents for the first time in God knows something
Oh,
since
wow.
like high school, right? And so I was so curious to know what other people are going through. So I've been through this many conversations. Like in the past 2 weeks, I've been talking to parents who are homeschooling, which is a
Yeah.
complication and very challenging, something that none of them signed up for, right? They're playing
Right.
multiple roles. They're husbands, their wives, their parents, they're cleaning the house, they're homeschooling their children, they're working remote. I mean, it's all of these roles that no one could ever thought they could ever manage, and now they're being forced to, and that's putting a lot of strain. And then more recently, I interviewed pregnant mothers who also have kids and are
Oh,
working.
wow.
And one of these women is a pregnant worker who has 2 children at home, and she is a healthcare worker with COVID, and her husband has COVID. So when you it's so,
Oh, my God.
when we're in our little bubbles like we are right now, it's hard to understand what all these other people are going through. And my main conclusion over the past 7 weeks is that everyone has their unique position. Because even if you're talking to two parents, one could have younger kids versus older kids. You could have a single parent versus, a parent with a spouse. You could have someone in different financial situations. There's so many different permutations of this.
Yeah. It's true. It's like, and, I think none of us know what we're all going through, but at the same time, we're all going through something. And what's interesting to me is it's like literally on a global scale. Like never in my lifetime have I had something gone through a pandemic, something where everybody on the planet, at least mostly everybody, I know Brazil hasn't shut down. There's certain places that haven't really quarantined and shut down, but do you believe that this will create more human connection around the world?
I think there's a few things that are going to come out of this. One is I think people will have a a better appreciation for the human experience because
Hmm.
technology is not supplying that. It's not a replacement of it.
Yeah.
So the second things do go back to normal, I don't think it'll go back to fully normal for at least a few years, whatever that might look like. I think people will remain working remote. I think a lot of these behaviors that we'll have with safety and security in the workplace and wherever you go, hand sanitizer, masks, more automation and all these other trends that are happening. But I think that we are now I appreciate my parents even more because I'm with them now, and it hasn't been like this in such a long
Wow.
period of time.
Yeah.
And so now, but it's even more so. Here's what's really fascinating that I'm studying is in terms of where people are going to be living, right? And so, like, people in our generation, we were living in the suburbs when we were younger, and then everyone wanted to live in a city, right? Cities were very desirable, and then all the companies followed suit. So they put their headquarters in the cities to attract people like us to hire us,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And now there's a combination of many things happening. The cost of living in a city, just because I'm in Boston right now, I'm still paying a ton of money rent in New York. So it's that cost plus the now we have such great technology and all these companies have invested even more in it. So
Yeah.
everyone's working from home, which
Yeah.
where we've always been able to work from wherever. So that's a gift.
Yep.
Remote working is a privilege now, as
Yeah.
crazy as it sounds, because a lot of people are unemployed, over 30 million, and a lot of people are essential workers, so they have to go put themselves in danger at McDonald's or Walmart or some of these other jobs. So I think that there's an appreciation not just based on relationships, but in an appreciation that you're able to even have a job.
Wow. So true. It's so true. I mean, again, it's like you would think because of the separation that we would disconnect even more, but I do see it as such an unbelievable opportunity for us to go deeper into our relationships. I mean, that's why I reached out to you, and even though I couldn't be there with my nephews this weekend, I still have gone even deeper with the relationship, like having phone calls with them and like FaceTimes. Even though it's not the same as that human interaction, it doesn't mean that I can't still go deep with a lot of the relationships in my life. And just it's really, more than anything, it's caused me to slow down.
Yeah.
And through slowing down, like really thinking about how I could become a better friend, can I become a better uncle, how can I become a better brother, how can I become a better CEO, and how can I just be even better to myself internally?
Reflection.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%, because at least from my situation, it's like some of my big client contracts got nixed, so I
Right.
have more time to think things through, to think about where do I want to live, who do I want, and all this time apart, you can reassess what friends you want in your life, you can reassess the work you want to do, where you want to live, all these future
Yeah.
plans. You have, especially if you're living in a major city, you're just always on the go. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And now that we take a step back, I think potentially we could take a few steps forward once we get out of this, because we'll have a better grasp at the people who put in deep thought about where they actually want to go and what's best going to serve them and the people around them.
Yeah. So Dan, how has this evolved for you? Like, I know that I definitely, like I mentioned, like it's caused me to really, really slow down and actually rethink everything. Like I've rethought my values, I've rethought my mission, my vision in life, what I'm building with Leaders Create Leaders, and family, like how I want to create family, and not just like on the business side of things and how I'm evolving there, but like what do I genuinely want to create more of in the world, right? Like it made me appreciate, oh my God, these memories I've created in life and the experiences of me going to Peru and going to Costa Rica and going to Bali. Like I want more of that. Like it's made it clear to me that like that's a really important part of my life. So when this ends, start time blocking for that. Start planning that a little bit more. Start really like managing
Intention.
with intention and time, right? Because like we just don't realize. I read something through Jesse Itzler's page. It was like we only live like 28,000 days, right? Like it's not a lot of time, and that's if we're blessed to have another day. We
Yep.
get a contract renewed every day, right? So my question to you is just like, how have you started to reflect, and what has evolved, what has changed for you going forward?
It's a great question. I would say first and foremost, I've given enough thought to what I'm actually doing and what I have done in the past, and how everything is kind of built
Right.
up. And I think my real focus in life is bringing the biggest workplace issues and topics to the mainstream. And it's something I'm very good at, and I have all the skills required to pull it off, and the right resources. And I think that is where I'm very excited about it. I have the skills and I can make a huge impact. Like, you know, giving people more flexibility. I've been around that. I've been focused on that for almost 8 years now, showing people that flexibility is a very broad topic. We don't need to wear a suit working from home, right?
Yeah.
So like we should be more casual. Who cares as much anymore? Like when you don't have to go to a physical space, it eliminates a lot of the things that you were doing just to do it. There wasn't a real reason. Like the 9 to 5 workday. Like what's the point of that anymore?
Right.
Right?
Wow.
Because
It's like
you
rethinking
could
everything.
be more effective working at night than in the morning or on weekends. Like just do your thing, get the work done. And so work is really becoming about the work you do and the people you do the work with.
Wow.
Whether you work for Google or any of these companies, that's great, but it's really about your experience doing the work and the people you're collaborating with. Because if you have toxic coworkers, like, you know, I said in Back to Human, you can love your work as much as possible, but they're going to be an obstacle that gets in your way, and they're going to hurt your mental health. And I think the two words that are going to define this decade are mental health. And
Wow.
here's what's really fascinating. So if you think about it, you know, you have way over 1 million people now in the US that have contracted COVID. And then you've had, I think there's like 67,000 deaths, something like that. But if you compare that to the amount of people who suffer from mental health, there's 450 million people globally that suffer from mental health. And it's actually, I don't remember the exact number, it's like 20 to 30% of people say that working remote hurts their mental health, which kind of gets back to our discussion about, you know, when you're not seeing and hearing people for
Yeah.
a long period of time, you feel isolated. And
Yeah.
37 million Americans live alone. And so I feel the most for them. I honestly feel like if I stayed in New York alone I had a new apartment, which I only got to stay in for a month, I would be depressed, no
Yeah.
question, because of lack of human connection. So
Yeah.
I totally feel for people who are by themselves now. And I think that, like you were saying before, it's like call one new person a day. Like make a list of the 30 most important people in your life and just call one a day,
Yeah.
right? Because whether they're calling you or connecting with you or not, that doesn't mean they don't need some sort of connection. And
100%.
so even that one call can make their life a little bit better, make them feel like people care about them. And then that can help get them through it psychologically.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You know what I've been doing, Dan, is I've been doing this thing. Everyone who's watching this, you can do it too. Like it's called the appreciation challenge. I haven't like publicized it really, but anyone who jumps on
We
the
are
live, I'm
right now.
talking
It's the
about it.
exclusive.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I just, you know, every day I take 3/4 on my desk, heads up, and I give appreciation to 3 people a day. 3 people a day for 30 days, every day. It could be someone you work with, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, you know, it could be whoever you want in your life. But go deep. Don't just say I appreciate you. Send them a voice memo and tell them what you really appreciate about them, you know? Send them do a FaceTime video. Send them an email if you want. And just tell them like, yo, you know, last week I sent an email that just said, I love you. Like, I really love you. Thank you for everything you've done. You know, they were probably expecting some business email from me, right? But I was like, any way you want, you know, share appreciation. And it feels good, you know, because someone did it to me, Dan, like a week ago. His name's Sterling Griffin. And I got this voice note. Well, it was on Voxer, but I don't really use Voxer. He's like, hey, do you use Voxer? I sent you something on there. I'm like, no. I'm thinking he's going to have, you know, I'm thinking it's going to be like some kind of business request, right? I listened to this thing, and it literally was just gratitude and appreciation for how I've been showing up every day and doing the work that I do. But it was really from the heart, and it lit up my day, man. Like I felt so appreciated and seen, and like it was just like a nice. It just felt good. So you know, not only does it end up feeling good for you, but man, that other person, you don't know what they're going through that day and how you can change their entire day by just offering some appreciation. So 3 people a day for 30 days, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and things can be so simple. Like just sometimes I'll do just checking in. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that they know you're thinking of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's so important. And everyone's in their own unique situation, and you're not living their life. You can guess what they're experiencing, but you're not living their life. You don't know what's happening that hour, that day. And
Yeah.
so that's why it's so important to just check in. I mean, that's almost like a mantra right now, is just check in.
Right. So what do you feel, Dan, in like regards to the macro of like the workplace, how is this going to disrupt what happens, right? When this thing ends, I've kind of like thought to myself, I'm like, business will never be the same. Like
No.
it'll never be the same. So like, how are businesses going to have to adapt after this? Do you think that they're going to start having more remote cultures?
Yeah.
You know, but obviously this human interaction of having that office is still in place, but maybe now they're starting to implement more of the mental health or like, you know, different modalities in the office place to create more connection and
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you're naming off a lot of them, right? So basically, 3 out of every 4 organizations that had employees that were working in an office but are working remote now will remain working remote when this is all over.
wow.
And the reason why this is happening, everything, as you know, everything always comes down to the bottom line for companies. So
Yeah.
why would a company want to maintain this? It's not just for safety reasons. That is part of it, because you can't have the same amount of people in a physical office space in the next year, because in terms of proximity and social distancing, it doesn't work. But the main reason is because every remote worker saves a company $10,000 per year. So what you're going to see in
Wow.
cities is there's going to be more people moving out of cities into suburbs, not just because of remote work and the technology and and whatnot, and cost savings, of course, but it's also because a lot of people our age are getting married and having kids. So they had a delayed adulthood after the 2008 recession, but now it's caught up, and a lot of them are having kids and will move out. So that's going to change, and then companies are going to divest in commercial real estate. But the offices that will maintain and thrive are going to be, you know, offices where a lot of thought gets put into that experience in terms of cleanliness, in terms of space. And I think a big shift is 80% of all offices worldwide are open offices, which makes no sense right now, right? And it's noisy. And there's been research that shows you're actually less likely to want to interact person to person with a peer in an office, because people need some privacy, and
Right.
it can be noisy and coworkers can be distracting. So I think we're going to have more closed offices. We're going to have a lot more automation in terms of machines and robotics, robots cleaning floors like they've been doing. There's a picture I have in one of my presentations of a Wuhan, China hospital, a field hospital, with all these robots coming in. They're there for entertainment, but they're also there to clean everything, to disinfect it, so it gets rid of the virus, and do other things. Like they have wristbands, and actually, so PricewaterhouseCoopers just created an app which lets you know if someone's within a certain social distance of you.
Wow.
So we're going to
Oh my
see all
God.
technology is going to be heavily invested in.
Wow.
And I think it's good. It's safety reasons, but the fear, of course, is privacy and security.
Wow. Wow. I can't, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens. I definitely am still going to be, I still want to like give people hugs. You know what I mean? Like I want to like I feel like I'm going to like want to give somebody a shake their hand, and it's going to be like a, you know, elbow, like, you know, it's like hard to, it's going to be interesting with this
And
thing.
you know how important that is too. So
Yeah.
like part of me studying, it's almost weird to say, part of me studying pregnant women is is that all the research shows that if you don't have people physically around you at the time of your pregnancy and when you deliver, it harms it's bad for your health, it's bad for the baby. Like having people
Yeah.
around you and that support network is critical to the mother and baby's health.
Wow.
So but you can relate that to anything. Like if you don't see and hear from people for a long period of time, not only are you disconnected and are less likely to continue working at a company long term, which is the reverse of having good friends that you're meeting with for coffee in the workplace, your mental health overall will suffer, because we have to be around people. And that's why you're seeing a lot of people go crazy and go to Central Park, and
Yeah.
in Florida people go to
Protests over
beaches,
here.
is because it's not even just protests. I mean, people are just dying. They're going stir crazy. They're dying for some sort of human connection.
Right.
And these are just examples to show you how bad we need it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think, and now I think we'll appreciate our species more. It's so weird to say that, but it's like, as human beings, I think we're really going to appreciate and see each other more.
And the reason why we're all in this together, and we have to all follow these restrictions and the stay-at-home orders and everything together, is because we're both pretty healthy, right?
Yeah.
But if we get it and we don't get symptoms, we can still spread it to other people.
Yeah.
And that's why this whole idea of you know, some people can go back to work. Like I have a friend who's being forced to go back to work in a physical office. He's in the hotel business. He has nothing to do, but they're forcing him to go to the office. Makes no sense, and it's bad for everyone who's in that vicinity.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's I feel like businesses are starting to open at some point, Dan, right? Like, you know, we're so many, you said it was like 30, up to 30 million people, like
32 million people unemployed.
32 million people unemployed. So my question
Yeah.
to you is like, I feel like businesses are going to have to start opening. I noticed, like, I already start to feel it here in LA. Like, I feel like it's getting there. Like, I'm hoping by June, if not sooner, that they'll slowly start to have this intelligent reopening. So I want to know what your prediction is there. And also, like, there is this huge wave that we've been seeing for a long time, this trend of like independent entrepreneurs, these freelance market, right? Seth Godin has talked about it. I know Aubrey's been talking about it now. So just, I want to kind of know what your take is on that, where like people now just decide, hey, like, let me just master a skill,
Yeah.
like take what I've learned or go master a new craft and like actually start to figure out how to create an income on my own. Do you think, I want to kind of get your thoughts around that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to predict how this is going to play out. I mean, we've already seen some places reopen, but you know, if they reopen and more people get sick, they could get bad publicity, and then that could extend this longer. So it's so debatable. And then the other factor is, you know, if this goes past summer, then you're going to have the flu with this, and we're not going to have a vaccine for a year. It's just debatable. It's really hard to predict, to be honest.
Yeah.
But in terms of
So
how
if
you,
someone lost
I'll
their
tell you, I think
job.
the best, I think the, so answering your question, if someone lost their job or someone's an entrepreneur, whatever you're doing right now,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the smartest thing you could do is stay visible. That is my number one piece of advice, because as the economy starts to rebound, you'll be top of mind, like any brand. So if, you know, some companies like, oh, you know, we would, you know, we're looking to hire a speaker or Gerard or someone like Gerard, but you're like pumping out the content and they're thinking of you. They're like, oh, I'm following his content. It's great. It's beneficial to my business, whatnot. And then they finally get the marketing budgets cleared come August, let's say, or
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
They're going to hire you because they're constantly thinking about you. So to
Yeah.
me, regardless if you're a job seeker, do it. If you're self-employed, do it. No matter who you are, you got to stay visible, put content, do something online so that people can remember you and think of you, because this won't last forever. And the people who are out there ongoing, I'm doing this every day. I'm
Oh, wow.
doubling down on this.
Hell yeah.
You're gonna have a much better chance of recovering after this. And I think to answer your other question that you asked, for sure, I think it's a no-brainer that if you're able to build a business and keep your overhead low, I mean, look at the companies that have a high overhead right now. They're suffering the most.
Yeah.
Furloughs, layoffs, you know, having to pay rent in office space
Oh, right. Yeah.
when you're not making income can really push you out of business. You know, J. Crew just filed for bankruptcy.
I saw that.
But the other piece of filing for bankruptcy is all of their landlords scattered around get screwed.
Yeah.
So it is devastating. So I do agree that if you're able to, you know, create your own income, or in my opinion, you need multiple streams of income. I think that is a big shocker right now for people who only had a full-time job or only had one gig. You need multiple streams of income because, like this, for instance, the speaking industry has collapsed, but other aspects of what I do in terms of research and marketing, that's maintained,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's a little bit lower, but it's maintained much more. So if I only relied on speaking, I'd be in trouble, right?
Right.
If you only rely on, you know, teaching classes in a facility and you can't go to that facility anymore and you don't know how to do online courses, you got to learn. So you can learn new skills right now.
Yeah.
There's actually 6.9 million unfilled jobs, but those are more highly skilled jobs. So learning cloud computing, learning artificial intelligence and various more sophisticated skills by taking online courses, very helpful. But then also just creating something. You got to create something, and you have so much time to create something right now. So I think there's no better time to start than right now.
Yeah, I love that, Dan. You know, one of the things I respect about you, Dan, is because like there's like especially from a content perspective, right? Like there's the quality and then there's the quantity aspect, right? And, really mastering both, being able to stay visible is one thing and create content and continue to stay relevant and visible. But then there's the other side, which I think like you're one of the best in the world, especially for our generation, in the sense of like going really deep with research. And the way that you really take the time to become an expert at something, do the research, get into the data, get into, real world experiences, interviews. I mean, your last book probably was a project that took you years to create, I'm assuming. And you've been doing that for as long as I've known you. Is like you're one of the best in the world at creating research development and doing white papers. So like, I want to know what's your process for discovering something that you want to get in, that you want to learn, and then actually what's your process of doing the research and becoming an expert at that specific topic?
Yeah, so it's been over 50 studies in just over 7 years, and the process is very simple. It's either I get approached on a topic, or I come up with a topic, and the topic is just based on being so deep into my subject matter. All things workplace. What are the biggest issues? What are people suffering from? And then I look at the competitive market. Like, I'm not going to do a study on remote work because there's a quadrillion of those right now. So I wouldn't be able to stand out. I wouldn't be able to make the impact. But there are other topics that I think are less saturated that are interesting, like crisis management, like post-COVID organizations and cultures, and what that looks like. Basically, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is what is going to have longevity in terms of workplace trends, and then what's going to be a fad. What are trends that seem exciting and interesting now that are going to fade away, and what are ones that we're going to be living with for years? That to me is interesting. And then it's just constantly researching, seeing areas where I can add value, and then building, a survey instrument to reflect that. And then I go through a whole process of like getting funding and finding the right partners, and then I help lead a massive campaign to make sure that people are aware of what's going on, both from an individual perspective, by learning, by being aware of these stats and what they mean to you. These can help you get ahead in your career at some point. And then from an organizational standpoint, my goal is to help organizations create more human workplace culture. So a lot of my research has a heartbeat to it, right? It's very human focused, because it's going to affect the most amount of people if you have the individual in mind. And so over the past maybe 3 years, I'm consciously thinking about that. How can I inject more humanity into this research? Because people are trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And if I can be the sponge that just soaks up all this information, I'm reviewing thousands of studies per year. I'm constantly talking to executives. It is a ton. But now I catalog it every day. So it's almost like, much like when I started with blogging 2006, 2007 in the early days.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing the same thing. It's the same. It's fascinating. Like, I know you've been so deep into social media for now many years. It's the same strategies as when I first started. It's the same stuff. My first strategy was commenting on every blog that talked about personal branding. That was the number one strategy.
What I did. Yeah.
That was it. And now the Instagram is the new blogs. So I comment on Instagram profiles. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And what I mean by the same thing is it takes a lot of work. Yeah. It's daily. It's a daily practice.
Yeah.
We're definitely, and I know you know this and you're really good at this, it's you have to be out there every single day. And it's a lot of work. It's very tough to tell people that, especially if they're juggling multiple jobs. You got to put something out every day, even if it's one sentence. Something has got out, because if you're not out there, if you're not visible, people aren't going to think of you. And then each time that happens, you're missing an opportunity. So don't go crazy about that, though. But think about how you can make it work for you. For me, it's a few posts a day, and then one big article a week. But then I take that big article and I chop it up, and it becomes smaller pieces of content. Or I'll do an interview and then take out the audio from it. So you need to create a system that works best for you.
I was just gonna say that's so true. Like, I have had to build out a system, but what works for me, that may work for everybody, right? I teach that to a lot of my clients, and then I help them build their own system. But like for you, Dan, that's like why I really love because your work goes really deep. So there's an aspect of you having to probably have no distractions, total flow state. You're writing, you're connecting to CEOs, executives, you're doing the research aspect of it, you're downloading, but then you also probably have your time where you're becoming visible and you're being the brand and you're doing the thought leadership. So have you built that system for yourself? Like, what is that system for you? Is it the same every day where you're time blocking perfectly the same every day and you really know how to master, you know, the way that you're going to be kind of on the front end being the brand and then on the back end doing the research and preparing?
You know, I have such habits now that I don't even think about it. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I think in the beginning you're like figuring things out. How, you know, what output could I put out there? Like, you know, how can I structure this? And then as you get the system going, you don't think about it. You're just doing it, right? You know what you need to complete every week. I need X amount of pieces of content every week in order to fulfill those 7 pieces of content, 10 pieces of content. And knowing that a lot of my stuff has to have research, I gotta spend a day doing research that aligns to all those articles I want to post during the week. So what are the topics? What's out there right now? What have I studied in the past? What's relevant? And then start to piece everything together and publish it. So it's this whole process of, I like to see what's out there, and then I connect it to the work I've done, and then I see, you know, what's the best way to communicate that, and then I just make that happen. But I try. I'm much better at weaving things in now. I think that's the big change over the past years because, you know, I've interviewed I'm getting close to 2,300 people, right? Astronauts, magicians, you know, senators. I've interviewed Donald Trump. Like I have a huge repository.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to pick and choose quotes and things that are related. And then when I'm doing my interviews, I'm asking more relevant questions so I can tie that in.
Right.
Like I interviewed former General Martin Dempsey, right, under Obama. And I asked him about the crisis, and he kind of gave bad news. He's like, yeah, we'll probably get another one of these in 4 to 5 years. I'm like, ugh. But then I asked him, okay, what can leaders do right now? What's the quality that leaders need to develop? And it was trust. So I did a whole article because I've heard trust from Yuval Noah Harari. He said that's what leaders need to focus on. And then John Taffer of Bar Rescue, he says the thing that customers and bars are going to trade on is trust. So I'm hearing trust in different industries by different leaders, and that has made me want to go more in the direction of analyzing and doing research on trust because of that. Right? It's like you think this is right. Trust is important. And trust is the foundation of every relationship, as you know. Kind of goes back to our original discussion. But then you're like hearing it a lot more, and you're realizing that, the leaders that are the most successful are the ones who had already built trust, because going into a crisis, you feel more assured if you already trust the leader. Right? So trust, it becomes one of the most important, or the most important word when going through a crisis.
Yeah. 100%.
And the thing with trust is it takes a long time to build trust, but you can lose it in an instant.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's like it's our first value in the company. I absolutely love that. You've interviewed some of the greatest leaders in history. Maybe you can rattle off a couple different names like you have already. But I just want to know, like, what other common denominators do you see when you've interviewed throughout all these years, close to 2 decades, like myself, right? It's like, what do you see really does create a great leader, especially when you think about the leaders that we need today for tomorrow?
Aside from trust, one of the common threads is surrounding yourself with a great team, because the team reflects the leader.
Yeah.
And the leader reflects the team. And so having the right team, like, you know, I think you deserve so much credit for the quality of content you produce. Those videos, I mean, if you really analyze the space, I think it's some of the best videos that we see produced, right? No question. And so that has been a great way for you to stand out. But it takes a team to deliver quality that at that level, and a team that trusts you because you have a vision and you know how you want it to see it done. So that's just one example. So I think having the team is key. And then it is true. I mean, all of them do say follow your passion, even though there's other variables, right? Like, is this something you're good at? People get breaks. There's so many factors, right?
Yeah.
But I do know, because I like the research, I'm willing to go above and beyond to make sure it's amazing, because it's what I enjoy. I actually, and the thing about me is everything I've ever done, I started doing for free. So
Yeah.
that's the big test. But
Yeah.
my first like 6 research projects or something like that were for free. I didn't even get paid for it. It was break
Wow.
even.
It's so cool.
Speeches, I spoke for free 35 times before I got paid.
Yeah. It's so
So
cool.
like, that's the test. Are you
Yeah.
willing to do it for free? Okay, now we're
Yes.
going to pay you. That's that much better.
That
That's
makes
the
me feel
secret.
so much better,
The
bro. Because
blog.
like 5 seasons of Leaders Create Leaders, I've spent hundreds of $1,000s, God knows how many hours and how much time and energy. And I never did it to monetize. I never like pushed anything to it. Just now I'm starting to build Leaders Create Leaders and build that out. But for 4 years since doing these videos, I did it because it was simply because I was so passionate about it. And I really wanted to just, I wanted to provide that inspiration and knowledge to people, but I didn't do it because of money. I really genuinely didn't. And I believe that,
But it
that
is
when you're
important to
willing
know
to do
one
it,
thing. There is one thing, though, that a lot of
go
people
for it.
get tricked up on.
Yeah.
So knowing that you're doing it for passion, you love it, that's very important. And you
Yeah.
have purpose and intention, as you were saying. But in the back of your head, I remember even in my early 20s, I knew
Yeah.
that it was possible to potentially turn this into something that
Yeah.
was monetizable.
Excuse me.
God bless you. I
Thank you.
think that's really important too, because otherwise you might hit a point where maybe you have more responsibilities with like family. And then, can you really do this thing for 30 hours a week
Yeah.
while having 2 kids and not getting paid for it?
Yeah. Like if
Probably
I didn't have an
not.
exit, if I didn't sell my company, I would have definitely tried to monetize it earlier on. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I knew I had the ability to. But I agree with you, right? Like no matter what, you should, that's the whole goal, right? Is to take what you love doing, take what you enjoy doing, and then, help to solve a problem around that actually will be valuable and that you can make an income from. So yeah, I love it, bro. I want to know, one of the things that I love about you as well is on the brand, since we're on the topic of branding, like I really have started to think about the difference between someone who's just building a personal brand and an influencer type of brand versus like a leadership brand. And I think that you have done that, right? It's like, it's less about, and it's amazing when you have all the followers and all these things, but like, I feel there's a little bit of a difference when you are building a leadership brand versus you're just trying to get the likes, you're just trying to get followers, you're just trying to sometimes even be someone you're not, almost acting like you have like the Jake Pauls of the world, God bless them, they're crushing it. But there's an aspect of like, what can I break in the house today, like Jackass, to like get views, right? And then I'm going to make money off of that. That's cool. But then there's a difference between someone who's building a leadership brand that's really looking to educate people, still entertain them, but also expose truth and what's truly going on in the world and help to really change and help people to understand like how they could really be able to change their lives, right? Make more money, have more freedom, have more fulfillment, have more happiness, have more joy, have more love, better relationships, so on and so forth. So I kind of wanted to get, your take on, what are some tips that you would recommend for someone that is out there that is looking to take the step into what we have done in building a leadership brand?
Comes down to modeling. If you don't think it's possible because you don't see it's possible, you won't pursue that path. You have to see what's possible. Like originally, I saw what my uncle did, and I'm like, okay, he was high up in Gillette, which is part of Procter and Gamble, and he was a brand manager and worked himself up, and was a top dog there. And I saw that as a model. I'm like, that's interesting. And then I saw my dad's model. My dad was, had 100 employees working in the food distributing business, and I didn't like that model. People stole from him. It was a lot of aggravation. So I X'd that model out. And then the third model was my grandfather, who was a property owner. And I'm like, that's not for me either. Seems like stress. He's always stressed out. X that one out. Right. So I chose my uncle's model. So I was actually heading in that direction. Like I was at a career fair, I always remember, and Procter and Gamble and Gillette were there. They had a booth, and I went to the booth, and I'm like, how do I get a job here? I want to be a brand manager. And they're like, no, you need an MBA. So I literally started going in that way. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my MBA. And then all this happened. And I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't get my MBA. Thank God I
Right.
didn't even go in that direction. God bless. but it's modeling. You know,
I
you
love that.
choose, and you know what? It might not be just one person in their model. Is multiple things. Like Gerard, you might be like, oh, I like, you know, what this person is doing with courses. I like what this person is doing
Yeah,
for
exactly what I've done.
keynotes. I like what this person is doing for, you know, nonprofit work. And
Yeah.
you can have multiple models, not just one person who's doing multiple things that you're interested in. And then, like, you're very good at this too, is you're finding these people and you're connecting with them,
Yeah.
or you're using the smartest thing. And I think the key to a lot of this is using content to bridge relationships. So
Yeah.
the content is the excuse to connect with someone, and not in
Yeah.
a negative way.
Oh my
It's
God.
like if you just
Huge.
reach out, you're like, hey, let's get coffee. No, that's not as strong as saying, hey, you know, I'm Gerard, I have Leaders Create Leaders, you know, be in an episode, because you're creating a different, stronger connection where value is exchanged at a higher level. And then they're more likely to do it, and you're both more likely to benefit from that
Wow.
situation.
Such a good
The
point. I mean,
content creates the connection.
I love
It's the
that content.
excuse to reach out.
Yes, I absolutely love that. I mean, guys, listen, this is gold, because you're absolutely right, Dan. Like, I have gone and modeled different people, and it's helped me to also like find my own voice, my own branding. Because there was times I was looking at Gary Vee a little too much, and then I was just like, whoa, I got the Gary Vee syndrome. I'm like trying to do it like 100 pieces of content in a day, and I started realizing, no, you do like aesthetic, you do like quality videos. It doesn't need to be vlogging all the time. And, you know, you slowly start to look at, oh, I like what Lewis is doing right now. How can I model that a little bit? Or Jay Shetty, man, I love what he's doing in the way that he's creating these videos. And everyone has their own thing. So you have to find yours, but you can look at different areas, you know, of what people are doing. Like, I loved you through the nonprofit side of things too, because like that's something that's really a passion of mine. And looking at like those type of models and how I can then incorporate that pencils of promise type of model into Leaders Create Leaders, and go and create new, you know, different ways of educating children that are unique for me. So I think there was just such value there. So I
A
really
lot
appreciate
of
that.
what we want to do already has existed, meaning
Yeah.
that the speaking industry has existed way before us, you know,
Right.
before we were born, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that model is there.
Yeah.
The you know, getting a book deal and promoting a book and whatnot, that's existed before we were born. So a lot of these things have existed, and there's so many people who have achieved so much in these different areas of what
Yeah.
we're looking to do. So if 500 say no, they don't want to talk with you, the 501st person might say yes, and you only need one.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's where the hustle comes in,
Yeah.
right? Not just from biz dev, but networking and just connecting with people.
Yeah.
It was this. I always
Oh,
have
so
mantras. I'm huge
true.
into mantras. Huge. This
Oh,
is,
cool. Cool.
I motivate myself through mantras.
Okay.
My original mantra was set yourself up for success. So I was the kid in school, and when I had a normal job back in the day, where I wouldn't wait till the night before to study for an exam. I would study a week before. I would do a paper 2 weeks before, right? At work, if I had a project due, I would get it done a few days before, right? So I was setting myself for success so that I could deliver.
Yeah. I absolutely.
And so I think the mantra is, here's the mantra. This is in my second book, actually, Promote Yourself. The rule of one. It only takes one.
Yes.
It only takes one.
I
And I'm
100%
telling you,
agree.
I have so many. I'll give you a good story. So I was trying to find a funder for the research study I did for my second book, and I, you know, told my agent, I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'd never really done it at this level before. I had done some studies before, but not this type of funding. And so I was just like, you can count on me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I reached out to, and I don't know the exact number, but it's about 100 companies. And no, 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 no. Like all of them said no, pretty much. And then I'm out to dinner at Legal Seafood in Boston with my parents and one of my friends. And they're like, you might want to try something else. You know, like I'm their son, like they're trying to protect me, right? And I think it was the next day or a few days later, I get an email. So everyone said no. American Express said yes.
Wow.
So that's it. I mean, maybe they could have said no, but the idea is just keep on. I call it in my head, I'm like, I'm pounding. I'm like pounding. I'm just
Yeah.
somebody's gonna say yes. And the thing that people don't understand is once you get that first yes, once you do a great job in that first project, now you have something that you can leverage. It's actually the case for doing your first project for free or low cost,
Yeah.
because that one project
Credibility.
is your sales kit.
Right.
That is your sales pitch is that successful project.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, bro. Like, I live my life this way. I sold my company. I got my buyer, John Steinberg, that same model. Like, it took one relationship, me chasing him down in the rain at a speaking engagement, waiting for him at the door, pitching him when I was I was in my 20s. When I started Leaders Create Leaders, like, I tracked Gary Vee to get in season 1, because I knew if I got Gary as my one of my first people to be on this episode, it would open up the doors to get everybody else. And I chased him down to South by Southwest, got I think it gave me like 18 minutes to do the interview, like,
it's so good.
But it was just like that one relationship. And I, again, like, content has opened up so many doors to so many powerful relationships, and it only takes one. So, one thing that you mentioned though, is what I'm hearing is also like discipline. So I want to know, like, how do you keep the discipline even when times get tough, Dan, right? Like, and I'm sure you go through that on a weekly, if not daily basis. Times get tough. Maybe you have that doubt creep in, or that, anything, that voice. That
mantra. It's a mantra.
Okay.
Failure is part of the process.
Nice.
And I think the other thing that's happened to me psychologically in my 30s is I don't care as much if someone says no. Like, I'll give you like a example from like yesterday. Yeah. Like, I'm always reaching out, trying to interview people. Like, I have unbelievable interviews. But yesterday I reached out. I was like trying to book 50 Cent, and they said no. I don't really care. I mean, I had interviewed him years ago, but I don't really care. On to the next one, on to the next one. Like, you're going to get no's. And so I think that the only way to feel this and to be confident about it and to not let it bother you is to get beaten up. You have to. It's been so many ups and downs over so much time for me that, like, things don't bother me as much anymore. It's disappointing, but it doesn't bother me as much anymore because I've been through a lot. And so I think anyone who's listening right now who, is struggling or whatever, just you'll look back, and in hindsight, you'll be like, oh, I don't care as much about anything now because I got all this rejection back then. So I know what that feels like. You have to feel that. Yeah. And then, like, the other attitude I have is, what's the harm in reaching out? What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. So that mentality is super important. And actually, you'll like this. Actually, it is a 50 Cent story too, because I just saw Jay Shetty interview him. When I was an intern at Reebok my junior year, in the summer of my junior year at college, unpaid intern, and 50 Cent had a big deal with them. So 50 Cent comes and, with this posse.
50 Cent was my favorite rapper growing up in high school. What? Bump it up.
He was huge when I was in college. I'm a little older than you.
G-Unit. I love the 50.
So he pulls in with G-Unit, and the CMO of Reebok is like, 50 Cent's here, and then he gives a little speech. And then at the end of this, just shows you, this was the start of my attitude. He's like, now you, as in the employees, the interns, everyone working there, can go and talk to him. And there was no bodyguards around him. Maybe they were like snipers on the top. I didn't see anyone. But I went right up to him. I was the intern. It was like my 5th week there. I went right up to 50 Cent, and I was like, oh, you're great. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember he didn't say anything to me. He just put up a grin, and I think he nodded, and that was it. But that's what you need to be doing, right? It's like, maybe I'll probably never see him again. I'll probably never see him again. Like, I interviewed him, whatnot, but you might never have the chance again. So so the psychology is, what would you do if you knew that this was your only opportunity to connect with someone? Yeah. And the answer is, just go for it.
I have one for you. This was a big one for me because it's really cool. So I'm at and I'm not saying this to gloat, but at the time I happened to have the jet, I think it was called Jet Smarter. So I'm at the private jet aviation. I was using the pass. And this is before he started his Instagram. And I look over my shoulder, and I have one of my video guys with me. And I look over my shoulder, and I'm like, bro, that's Will Smith. I'm like the French Prince of Bel-Air. It's fucking right there. And really, this was at a time where you didn't really see Will Smith. Like, he was kind of not in the public's eye. He was going through a time where he didn't know if he should go on social media or not. and all that situation, but it's Will Smith. Like, I grew up on Will Smith, and it was like, and I knew, and I saw his agent, like, or whoever he was with, it looked like it was like a manager. A huge jet pulls up, and I'm like, that's gotta be Will's. Like, Will is about to go out there and get on that black, huge G50, whatever, right? And I'm like, I see the guy walk over to him and say, Will, you ready? Whatever. He gets his luggage. I'm like, this is my only shot. I told my boy, I'm like, let's go. I walk over and I said, Mr. Smith, for a second, I just had to say, and he was the most kind-hearted, stopped, talked to me, and I just honored him for the family man that he is, how he's raised his kids, how he's always shown up, and all his craft, all the movies, and growing up watching French Prince, and just everything he did for the culture. And I have a picture that I will cherish for the rest of my life, because who knows if now that he has Instagram and he's probably the biggest star in the world, like, who knows when the next time will be that I'll have an opportunity to have a real conversation with Will Smith. So you just never know. Dan, we got a couple
instead of questioning yourself, just spend the same time you would questioning yourself and just do it.
Just do it.
Because you know how, like, people are like, should I do it? Should I not? Just do it. Just don't even get there. Just go.
Yeah. Mel Robbins, I interviewed her, and she has this 5-second rule. It's like the best thing. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just go, right? So New Star, she's amazing. New Star Healed Earth. She's always on my lives. She asked, where was it? She said, how do you, I just had it on my screen and it disappeared here. But she had asked, how do you become a good mentor? I mean, I'm going to look for it again, but I've had obviously a lot of great mentors in my life. I've now become a mentor in my life. Dan, what do you believe really creates a great mentor?
We got to kick it up a little bit more than that. It's what does the mentee-mentor relationship look like? So I've interviewed tons of people. I've helped people out. It needs to be mutual.
Got it.
It doesn't need to be the exact same level of value, I guess. It's all perception, right? But it can't be one way. Like any relationship. This is not just mentoring-mentee relationship. And that is so important, because otherwise we won't have longevity. Right? Because if Gerard's doing a million things, producing video and doing speeches and managing a nonprofit and doing all these things, how are you going to get some of his time? And the best way to get some of Gerard's time is to figure out what his needs are, and then just do it for free and be like, hey, like, I'm going to be your understudy. You got to, like, pledge yourself to someone if you are, younger, trying to get, support. And then I think this whole idea of mentoring, of Gerard, you're the chosen one, you are my mentor. Like, I think it's more of, okay, what do you want to learn, and be a sponge in that world.
Yeah.
Learn from many different Gerards, or people like you, or people in your network, right? And don't go for the biggest fish first. Don't be like Mark Cuban, I want you to mentor.
Yeah.
He has no time. He only responds to email through people who he's funding, right? So that's not going to happen. Instead, it's like, who's a little bit more approachable. And one of the best ways that I recommend to find a mentor is actually, you go to Amazon, you go to nonfiction, nonfiction, and then, like, let's say you want a mentor in marketing. You type in marketing, you look at all the best-selling books in marketing, and then you start contacting them. Right. And every author wants more publicity. So just do some publicity for them, promote them. And that could be a ticket to the entry point of an author, where you can connect with them, serve them, and have some sort of mentoring relationship. But I don't want people to think of mentoring relationship means this person owes me an hour every week. No, that's crazy. So set your expectations too. That's so important. And think of them first. Have empathy for their needs. Don't be like, what can this person do for me? But you can find mentors very easily, right? It's Amazon, type in the subject that you're looking to get into, right? Looking to learn from: internet marketing, HR, operations, Six Sigma, whatever it is. Choose something. Find the people on Amazon who authored books that are experts in these areas, and then find something you could do for them to help them promote their work, because every author has that in common. Every author wants to sell more books, and every author wants more promotion to do that. Yeah.
I'm going to take 2 more. We have till 1:30 before Instagram will kick us off. So fire these off, Dan, because I also want to have you give a minute to just talk about anything new. I want everybody, make sure you follow Dan. I always tell you guys, go follow him, interact with him. He is one of the most remarkable authors of our generation. And I just highly recommend that you follow his podcast, all of the content that he's putting out. one we got is, how do you stand out in your industry? Maybe like real quick, what do you recommend there?
Fastest way to stand out in the industry is align yourself with someone who's already respected in the industry. I call it
Powerful.
branding by association. If people don't know you, they might know some other expert in the industry. So if you align yourself with them through the transfer of brand equity, you get some reputation, support.
So smart. I know. I love that leverage. And then last we got, I'm going to take it from Wavy here. He says he's 17 years old. He says, how do I get more attention as a 17-year-old business owner and get a mentor to help started when I was 15 and get a mentor to help started when I was 15? I don't understand the last part.
I think the first thing with that, whatever that question is basically stop thinking of yourself as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? Be known more for the value you provide than what your age is. Yeah. That's the real thing. And then from there, it's becoming an expert. It's what topic you want to focus on. And it could be you experimenting. It could be you taking multiple courses, watching, various videos to get inspired by maybe people Gerard or I interview, and then kind of deciding on one path, knowing that you might have to adapt and choose a new path in a year or so. Who knows? You're young. The good thing is try as many things as possible now, because you'll set yourself up for success in the future.
I love it. Well, Dan, thank you so much, bro, for taking some time and jumping on with me. I really appreciate it. Guys, go give him some love. Let me know, was this valuable to you? Comment, guys, one word of how this live was for you. And Dan, what is something new that you're working on right now? How can I support you? My friend, please know that I'm always on your side. If there's anything you got new coming on, you can count on me to promote that for you. And also as a friend, if you ever want to just catch up with me, let's continue to build our relationship over the years. We're like the new ancestors, it's like really cool that we'll look back at this COVID and be like, man, we did that IG live. You remember that, Dan? So always count on me, man, for that.
Awesome.
I'll say a prayer for your family. But is there anything new that's going on that you can?
You too. Yeah. So every day, if you're on LinkedIn, you can follow this new posts that basically catalog what's going on in the workplace and how it's affecting people's lives. So definitely check that out. There's a newsletter called Workplace Intelligence Weekly. My new company is Workplace Intelligence, which I'm very excited about.
And that's on LinkedIn, Workplace Intelligence on LinkedIn. Yep.
And then the podcast is 5 questions, and there's an episode every Monday. We've got Andrew Yang coming up. We got billionaires coming. I mean, the roster is great. John Taffer's coming up. Steve Aoki's coming up. So we got a great roster coming up if you want to check that out as well.
Fire. All right, cool. Well, guys, make sure to check that out on LinkedIn, and make sure please check out the podcast. That's so cool. I've been keeping up with those podcasts, so I'm gonna go subscribe right now. Everybody, I need you to go subscribe. Again, one more time, Dan. The podcast is
5 questions.
5 questions with Dan Schobel. So thank you, Dan, for being on the live, and I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Thanks, Gerard. Appreciate you.
All right.
Be well, my friend. Be safe.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So thanks for taking some time. Another day, another live stream. We have a few more really powerful live streams this week. I'm just getting really focused this week. My 2 big words this week are focus and discipline. Guys, it's Monday. So if you have not yet set your goals, I want you to think through and write your goals tonight. 5 goals that you need to accomplish this week. 5 goals. 1 or 2 of them can be personal development. Maybe you want to finish a book. Maybe you want to, do something special. Mother's Day is coming up and you want to plan a really special surprise for your mom. That's cool. Then at least 3 of them should be business oriented. How many sales calls do you need to get on? Maybe you need to shoot some course videos like I do. Maybe you need to reach out to your clients and, help them do something for them. Maybe you have to do content and you have to post 5 pieces of content this week. But get clear on what those goals are today. It's Monday, and crush your week. Be focused, have the discipline, and execute. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I saw a couple of questions come in that were asking me about that you're getting into the game, right? So it sounded like you're starting to build a leadership brand. So if you're starting to build your leadership brand and you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for a coach that's actually done it, then definitely shoot me a DM with the word leader, and I will reach out to you. My team will reach out to you and see if there's an alignment for you to fit into the mastermind where I coach with my team every single week, teaching my system on how you can really step up as a conscious leader and then build your leadership brand and then grow your business. So looking forward to seeing you guys later this week. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Peace.